In Chapter 8, we will be discussing safety at various facilities, such as a station or office. Once completed with this module, you should be able to evaluate methods of risk management and safety, identify and assess safety needs for non-emergency situations, identify the role of EMS personnel in risk management and safety, and understand how to conduct a safety inspection of facilities. To frame the issues discussed within this chapter, pretend for a moment that you are working with your workers' compensation insurance company and it has been brought to your attention that your service has quite a few claims by office staff. While the claims are not high-cost claims, you are somewhat surprised at the number of claims from the office staff. So where would you begin? What are some of the things to take into consideration? Are there items that could be improved within your service to make the office environment safer? While it is easy to think about safety and health within an EMS organization as it applies to operations and your providers in the field, safety at the station and other facilities must be a consideration within any comprehensive EMS workplace safety program. As far as the workplace environment is concerned, it is important to ensure the workplace is clean and organized. Believe it or not, OSHA research has shown that poor housekeeping can contribute to low employee morale and sloppy work in general. In EMS or fire stations that are old, in poor repair, or maybe a combination of the two, this can be a challenge. Most good safety programs, however, start with an intensive cleanup effort in all areas of the business. This would include discarding of unnecessary items, providing proper waste containers, storing flammables correctly, ensuring ample access to exits, maintaining clear aisles, and having adequate lighting. Beyond general housekeeping, a self-inspection program of some sort is usually necessary to identify additional safety and health concerns beyond those that are painfully apparent with a cursory examination of the space. Such self-inspections should include building and grounds conditions, housekeeping, electricity, lighting, machinery, personnel, hand and power tools, chemicals, fire prevention, maintenance, PPE, transportation, first aid programs and supplies, and an evacuation plan. Details on these various elements are available within the textbook. While covered in greater depth in the EMS legal and political aspects course, OSHA, or an equivalent state agency, requires the posting of certain information for all employees at the facility. If covered by OSHA, the OSHA Job Safety and Health Protection poster must be displayed in a prominent location where all personnel are likely to see it. If there are hazardous materials on the property, which can include cleaning products or other industrial chemicals, employees must have access to material safety data sheets, also known as either product safety data sheets or simply safety data sheets. Emergency plans should be posted, and there are also additional posting requirements for the Department of Labor and other equivalent agencies that may not have anything to do with workplace safety and health, but are still required to provide employees notice of their various rights under the law. Examples of many of these notices are available within the textbook for this course. While an office environment may seem extraordinarily safe, especially compared to the hectic and hazardous environments prevalent in providing emergency medicine in the field, statistics estimate that office workers sustain approximately 76,000 fractures, dislocations, sprains, strains, and contusions annually due to office environment hazards such as slippery floors, uneven surfaces, inadequate lighting, and other environmental factors. Maintaining a healthy office environment requires attention to chemical hazards, equipment and workstation design, physical environment including temperature, humidity, light, noise, ventilation, and space, task design, psychological factors such as personal interactions, work pace, and job control, and sometimes chemical or other environmental exposures. Emergency exits and paths of egress to those exits must be kept clear and well lit at all times. If there is an emergency, from a fire or power outage to an active assailant or shooter, office personnel must have unimpeded access to those exits. Along similar lines, the last thing you want is a still sleepy EMS provider tripping in a cluttered hallway on his or her way to the ambulance for a 3 a.m. run. Any fire hazards must be addressed, not only because fire prevention laws require it, but because it also enhances your service safety and health initiatives. Fire extinguishers should be maintained and available. Combustibles should be stored appropriately, and fire protection features in the building must be adequately maintained. Even seemingly innocuous items can be hazards if not stored or handled properly. Heavy objects, for instance, should be stored lower to the floor as opposed to being stored on high shelves, making them difficult for employees to access and handle. Clutter can create tripping hazards and should be eliminated to the greatest extent possible. Flammable and combustible materials should be labeled and stored correctly. Within the office environment, ergonomics, which is the design of the environment around the human body, are important. Workstations should be at a proper height. Chairs should be sturdy and also at an appropriate height for the respective workstation. Computer screens should not be too high or too low for the workstation. File cabinets can tip if more than one drawer is open at a time, unless the cabinet is somehow secured to the wall or other immovable object or building element. Each office environment is different. Some spaces are open and collaborative, some utilize cubicles to segregate workspaces, and others have private or shared offices. Regardless of the design associated with your office space, poor housekeeping can lead to crowding, lack of privacy, and slips, trips, and falls. The ambulance itself can be a hazardous workplace environment in ways not previously associated with workplace safety or injuries. Simply sitting in an ambulance for an extended period of time can result in back pain or discomfort. The human body was arguably not designed to remain stationary. Rather, people are supposed to move and be active. Just sitting in any one location for an extended period of time can lead to numerous health problems that could even include a pulmonary embolism. Sitting in the front of an ambulance for an entire shift should be discouraged. The use of ladders is somewhat common at fire and EMS stations to access storage, perform maintenance, or even wash vehicles. Proper and safe use of ladders is important. This includes making sure A-frame ladders are fully open and locked. All ladders should be placed on a non-slip surface. Ensure ladders at the station are adequate for the job at hand. Standing on the top rungs of a ladder can lead to tipping or falls. Ladders should be tall enough to ensure workers do not need to climb to the top to complete their task. Ladders also have weight limits. Saving money on an inexpensive ladder can lead to problems later if the ladder fails or is used by someone who is too large for the ladder. Electrical hazards must be addressed at the station. This means ensuring electrical service areas, such as breaker boxes, have adequate clearance around them and are properly maintained. Broken outlets or makeshift wiring, which can sometimes magically appear at the firehouse or EMS station, must be addressed. All electrical work must be performed by a licensed electrician. The use of multiple outlet strips should also be avoided or at least minimized to prevent the overloading of outlets. As odd as it may sound, some pieces of office equipment can be hazardous if misused or not properly maintained. Photocopiers use bright light, have moving parts, may be loud, and can also generate significant heat. Paper cutters are obviously sharp. Staplers can be like mini nail guns. Pencil, pens, and scissors can cut or result in puncture wounds. Shredders can catch articles of clothing, and if that article is a necktie or a scarf, strangulation can even occur. Computers have their own set of hazards, typically associated with ergonomic issues due to bad workstation design, along with the risk of repetitive stress injuries such as carpal tunnel and eye strain or other similar problems. Inadequate heating, ventilation, and air conditioning can be a problem, especially in the garage area of the station. Running vehicles generate numerous harmful gases that should not be inhaled. Systems exist to remove those gases, such as venting systems that attach directly to vehicle exhaust pipes, along with air exchange systems that exhaust and replace the air within a space numerous times an hour. Such systems can be expensive, however, especially in older stations that were not initially designed with the mitigation of that specific hazard in mind. Ventilation can also be an issue in other areas of the station, depending on the design of the station and specific hazards that exist within the station. While many employers now prohibit cigarette smoking and use of vaporizers within their facilities, that is not always the case, and chronic workplace exposure to cigarette smoke can actually give rise to workers' compensation claims. Whether or not those claims are successful can be another matter that is outside the scope of this course. Regardless, as far as workplace safety and health programs are concerned, prohibitions on all tobacco use can be positive for the organization, especially if coupled with smoking cessation activities for employees. Poor lighting can be a chronic problem at fire and EMS stations, especially for crews working overnight. Some stations have systems that turn the lights on if a call comes in. In the absence of such a system, however, personnel waking up in the middle of the night to respond on a run should not have to worry about not being able to see as they make their way through the station to the ambulance. Noise can also be a problem for emergency workers. Many years ago, it was not unusual for siren speakers to be mounted over the roof of the emergency vehicles with just a thin piece of sheet metal between the 100-plus watt siren and the provider's ears. Over time, this resulted in occupational hearing loss for emergency workers at rates higher than other workers who are not routinely exposed to such loud noises. While grill-mounted siren speakers have reduced this problem somewhat, as providers are often functioning in loud environments, and hearing protection must be considered within any progressive and effective EMS workplace safety and health program. Eye protection is important to think about when station and vehicle maintenance is being performed. Protective clothing may also be necessary depending on the work being performed around the station. Vehicle maintenance, for instance, can involve rotating parts, so loose, baggy clothing should be avoided. Grease and oil can also be a problem when servicing vehicles, so overhauls are encouraged to keep uniform shirts and pants clean. Along those lines, vehicle maintenance areas can be vulnerable to numerous safety issues due to the type of work performed in those areas, and it is essential for safe work practices to be integrated into these areas. Housekeeping in garage and service areas is just as important as it is in other areas of the station, maybe even more so, as spilled grease or oil can be a significant slip hazard. Rags used in the servicing of vehicles that clean up oil or grease need to be stored in metal cans with lids. Lifting devices should be used when working with heavy equipment or items, such as ambulance-mounted oxygen or other compressed gas cylinders. Flammable and combustible liquids should be stored in accordance with NFPA standards and applicable fire prevention laws. If it is necessary to tow a vehicle or change a tire, the use of proper equipment is an absolute necessity. Do not attempt to improvise, as attempts to take shortcuts can have disastrous outcomes. Ambulances are equipped with compressed gas cylinders, and the storage and handling of these cylinders is very important to reduce risk and the potential for injury. Lift assist devices should be used when changing ambulance-mounted compressed gas cylinders. Smoking and heat sources should be avoided around oxygen. If your service carries nitrous oxide, cylinder leaks can result in unique problems if the gas is inhaled. Some service areas even have welding capabilities that requires acetylene storage. Cylinders, when stored, should be secured to prevent tipping and damage to the cylinders. Cylinders should not be overfilled and must be hydrostatically tested on a periodic basis as recommended by the manufacturer. If your providers eat at the station, there may be a gas grill with propane cylinders present as well. These are all hazards that must be considered in your safety and health program. To summarize the chapter, EMS workplace safety and health includes more than just addressing issues in the field. Proper maintenance and housekeeping at stations and office areas must be included in any organizational safety and health program. Within the auspices of the scenario at the start of this chapter, you should begin by conducting a self-inspection of your stations and office areas. There are numerous resources available to assist you in conducting such an inspection, such as the sample list provided in the textbook, or potentially something through your service's insurance carrier. If the EMS service is a part of a fire department, even a fire inspector can provide some insight by evaluating the properties for fire code issues. Evaluate your office layouts for ergonomic design, clear hallways and means of egress, ample trash receptacles, and proper repair of furniture and other office equipment. If machines and power tools are used within the office or station, make sure proper PPE is used for the hazards associated with that equipment. Also look at the work practices of your employees. If unsafe work practices are identified, it is important to take corrective actions as quickly as possible. This applies to not only the performance of EMS duties, but those other work practices around the station, such as routine maintenance, vehicle maintenance, and the completion of special projects. This chapter was somewhat short, but the goal was not to turn you into an industrial hygienist or ergonomic specialist. Rather, as an EMS leader or manager within your organization, it is important to take a holistic view of safety and health within your organization, which must include considering hazards that exist not only during EMS field operations, but also within the relative safe environments of administrative offices and EMS stations. Now that you are completed with this chapter, you should be able to list components that should be included within a facility self-inspection, identify the leading types of disability accidents within an office environment, explain the controls available to ensure proper safe means of egress, define checklist items to be included in a facility self-inspection form, and describe at least 2 safety issues associated with vehicle maintenance areas.